I love running. It's my ultimate medicine. I'm actually part of this big running community on Facebook. And a few months ago, a new guy joined the group. And let's just call him Ben. Ben is about 200 pounds overweight. Yep. And he posted that his doctor just gave him a serious warning about his health. And he admitted that he gets winded just by tying his shoes. So he told us that he is desperately needed to get back in shape. And so we're all rooting for him. We're all like, yeah, just get out there and run, man. We're all giving him all these tips that we've painfully learned over the years about running, nutrition, and all the tips and tricks. So, what did Ben do? Instead of just setting up his alarm for 7 a.m. in the morning, go and stretch out his legs for a few minutes, then put on whatever shoes he already has sitting in the garage and just walk around the block. No, Ben didn't do that. He decided to go online and he dropped $1,000 on a top-of-the-line titanium fitness watch to track his blood oxygen and his heart rate and whatever else these expensive high-end sport watch track these days. He spent another $600 on these expensive carbon-plated running shoes that are supposed to make you feel like you're flying on the road. Then he dropped another 10 grand on an elite treadmill. 10 grand for a treadmill. That's as much as how much a car costs. And it came with one of these oxygen level masks that you can measure all your stats while you're running. And he got it all set up in the middle of his garage. And he posted the pictures all over the Facebook group. And we're all like, oh man, that is some world-class equipment that he got. I mean, he's got the best, most scientifically advanced gear on the market. But a couple months later, Ben still he hasn't even waken up early a day in the morning. He hasn't even walked a single mile. The shoes are still in the box and the treadmill is functioning as a very expensive laundry rack sitting right there still in the middle of his garage. Ben bought the illusion of fitness, but he completely ignored the reality of discipline, of actually getting out there and let the shoes hit the pavement. And so he bought a massive list of awesome world-class features. He completely, however, forgot about the real outcomes, and that is trying to shed those 200 pounds that the doctor has recommended that he should start losing. This is exactly what corporate AI adoption looks like today. Have a seat. Let's talk about the current AI adoption and why AI initiatives are failing and technology initiatives are failing in general, because organizations are going out there looking at shiny features and functionalities while forgetting to tie them into real world business values and impact and real ROI. So you sit in this executive boardroom and you're mesmerized by this glossy PowerPoint deck with buzzwords that you don't even know what they mean. And these beautiful demos that the vendors are showing you. And you buy into the whole illusion, hook, line, and sinker. And the demo was so great and awesome that you signed the contract. But when the brutal reality of implementation hits, this game-changing solution completely fails to meet yours and the organization expectations. Why? Because while you're sitting in that boardroom just getting all intoxicated by the the functions and the features of the tool, you forgot the core mission in the first place. You forgot that the one true reason to adopt AI is to deliver real world business outcomes that are directly tied to tangible values and hard ROI. And if you think that your organization is immune to this very common trap, just look at the ultimate multi-billion-dollar example of adoption failure, Meta. So Mark Zuckerberg poured in reportedly more than $80 billion with a B into the reality lab to build the Metaverse. And in concept, it sounded like the inevitable future. But when the reality of implementation hit, they faced staggering challenges. And when the reality hits and settle, they hit a staggering amount of loss that resulted this year in rounds of brutal layoffs. Why is this? Because Metaverse was the ultimate shiny solution, I think, looking for a problem. They spent tens of billions of dollars and engineering hours on what they thought was bleeding edge feature, but they ignored the fact that absolutely no one wanted to strap a heavy, sweaty VR headset onto their face just to attend a virtual meeting to share a simple spreadsheet. And they built this breathtaking digital world that I have personally been in, but they didn't solve a single point of human friction. And, you thinking that, hey, maybe I'm a Meta hater or a VR hater. No, let me show you. I got this right here. This is the Quest 3. I keep calling the Oculus because I've had every single version since the day of the Oculus headset when the very first version came out, even before it was bought over by Meta. So no, this is what I have right now, and I do use it for gaming, maybe watching movies, but no, strapping this huge thing all day for 8-10 hours a day for what I'm doing, for the amount of work that I do, and already a lot of times I already feel stuck in this office all day long, looking at numbers, looking at data, doing all my work, and I just want to get out there and hit the field, hit the hills, do my running. I don't want to be strapped to this. I mean, if you ever have one of these on, it's not light. It's very heavy. It gets sweaty in there. I even have to look at this. I have a fan in here so that when I'm in there, it helps me cool down so I don't sweat. But no, there's no way anybody want to wear this all day long to work in it. And that's where they went wrong. And they didn't really solve any kind of human friction. Matter of fact, I think it created even more friction. And the data proof that this delusion of just looking at cool features and functionalities and looking for a problem to solve, it's an epidemic. McKinsey reports that over 70% of large-scale digital transformation fail. And Gartner's note that while 80% of executives think AI can be applied anywhere, and the reality is only 20% actually manage to scale those initiatives into production environment. And I see this on a daily basis myself. Don't get me wrong, I believe AI has a lot of good uses, and there are tools that I'm I can't tell you, can't spill the beans, but there are tools that I'm testing right now with my team that are just phenomenal. And I think, like, how do we ever used to do work without it? So yes, there is a place and time for AI, but can't have this shiny solutions with good-looking features and functionalities on paper and go out and try to find a problem to solve. And really the barrier is not the software. The technology usually works exactly as advertised. The barrier is really your organization. It's the outdated processes, your 50 business silos, and your massive lack of executive ownership. And when you force a complex organization to adopt a, frankly, feature-heavy tool without fixing the underlying process first, you create extra headaches for everybody, including yourself. And you actively burn out your frontline workers by asking them to do their old exhausting manual job and then spend the extra hours after work to feed data into your new expensive AI toy that is still half broken. So to break the cycle, we have to stop being like Ben, the guy in my Facebook group. And we have to stop buying the gear just for the sake of the gear and really start thinking about how this new gear, it's going to help you provide real values for you and your organization. So here are things that you should be doing. Stop buying shiny features. Start with business value. And let's get this perfectly clear. I hear a lot of people are still fighting on LinkedIn, on social media, constantly talking about what I call the LLM wars, the model wars. Who cares? It's 2026, not 2023. And LLMs, large language models, are rapidly becoming of a commodity. And unless you're a tech giant building foundational models, you shouldn't have to care about benchmark scores. You shouldn't have to care whether one model is a slightly 2% better in performance over some other model. You shouldn't have to worry about the back-end architecture or the difference between the different model versions, because right now we are so advanced that the latest models are more capable of handling most of your everyday enterprise use cases. So when you sit in a vendor meeting, stop asking about parameters and start really talking about ROI and business values. I keep saying this over and over again. I hear this a lot. People are in meetings just talking about features and parameters where it doesn't make a difference for what they're trying to do, because, like I said, large language models are becoming a commodity. And your AI solution must be built entirely on something tangible. And so ask the hard questions before you even sign that contract. Ask questions like, how many hours a week will this AI tool save our engineers from doing manual coding or manually clean up legacy data? How much time will it give back to our frontline knowledge workers by automating meeting notes and sending automated follow-up? And if the tool cannot even give you a straight answer and tie that to hard ROI metric like cost reductions, revenue generations, or time saved, it's just another expensive titanium watch still laying in that drawer. Number 2, stop sprinkling AI like sriracha sauce on everything. We need to kill the mandate that of doing AI for the sake of AI. I get it. The pressure is out there. Industries are moving fast. Your competitions are adopting AI, but you can't just do AI for the sake of AI. Stop telling your team that you need to sprinkle AI on every single department just because the pressure is on and it sounds innovative. That's like me walking into Home Depot, buying a massive sledgehammer because I have a gift card, and then I walk around town looking for something random to smash. It creates chaos and it breaks processes that were working just fine. And it alienates your staff. So instead of searching for a place to tag on a new AI tool, work closely with your people to identify their most agonizing, repetitive, everyday pain points to solve. And map out those broken, inefficient processes before you even consider sitting in a vendor's demo. And I keep saying this, AI is a surgical instrument to fix specific bottlenecks, not sriracha sauce for you to pour all over your entire business. Number 3, solve for what I call the last mile of human adoption. The greatest AI tool in the world is worthless. I repeat, worthless if your employees view it as an extra chore rather than a superpower. And Ben didn't fail because the treadmill was hard to use. He failed because he didn't build the habit of getting up early, put on his shoes, and go walk around the block. And so you must design your new AI tool with the end user workflow in mind, not, frankly to say, not the executive's human ego. If the tool doesn't make a worker's job significantly easier within the first few weeks, your expensive treadmill is already headed for the garage. So here's the bottom line. Stop making expensive strategic decisions based on features and functions. I keep saying this over and over again, just the same as those magic shoes with wings still won't automatically shed 200 pounds for you if all you do is just sit there on your couch all day, binge watching Netflix without real expectations and real fix for your internal processes. That expensive enterprise software, it's just going to be another world-class treadmill in the garage gathering dust.